Hello everyone, Rudolf here from Omni Systems. So we are developing Eufloria 2. It's the first official sequel to our initially released in 2009 indie game of intergalactic expansion, strategic, floral gardening and other strange things. And we're pretty excited. These videos are meant to give you an insight on how we are doing this, warts and all, from early on. And it's quite different from how we did it last time. And frankly, quite different from how most games are made. I'd like to show you a few things to do with that. First and foremost though, the point of this video is to showcase elements of why and how we use so-called data-driven game development methods. And what I mean by that is generally in a game you work as a team, programmers, designers, but all game functionality comes initially in programming form. It has to be coded, and if you want to iterate, you need to work together with a programmer on changing features and behaviors and things like that. To some degree that is still true for this game, but the original Eufloria was actually quite good insofar that it exposed a lot of game variables to non-programmers so that they could make changes themselves without having to write new code. And I'll show you a little bit how that works. So in the first game you had one big default Lua file, and if you were to open it you would see something like this, in which you see game entities. In this case there are trees, defensive trees, AI agents, AI behavior, you name it, and these values could be changed in Lua. So you would just take an editor and change these numbers, and then that would translate throughout the entire level. So far so good. However, this time we've made that much more powerful, and I will show you precisely what that means and how we can now take advantage of having all this extra power through some experiments with trees. And I'm going to have to explain that. I'll show you how in the game. This level here features asteroids. These round things are asteroids here. I must do this later. I wonder what I meant with that. I'll check it later. Anyway, so this is an asteroid. On it I've planted some trees. This is all very abstract. But when I run it in the game, I'll do a test run. Let me show you. So here is that asteroid in the game, and as you can see it has the trees on it, and if you look closer to the tree you can see that the leaves are actually the game units, my main game units in this case, which are called seedlings, and the seedlings behave based on the asteroid's resources. You can see there are stats for energy, strength and speed, and they in turn affect how these creatures behave, but also others. So here, for example, we have a so-called defensive tree. These are missile pods that auto-launch themselves at any enemy that arrives in the orbit of this asteroid. And they will also have different energy, strength and speed related stats due to the, let's say, soil composition of this asteroid. Same thing with this funny little thing here. This is a mine. It's a bit of a pathetic one. It's got like two little wings, but still. And as you can see, there's a whole cluster, asteroid belt, if you like. I happen to have a few other asteroids as well, and that means that they can reach each other because they're close enough to each other. That means this area here is where I can travel freely. I would have to conquer other asteroids in order to gain their resources, but also to expand the reach of my little empire here. And in the meantime, quite hidden behind a fog of war type effect are other, let's call them empires, rivals, doing their thing. So who knows what's going on. If I click on another asteroid, oh, that was sending, here we go. You can see the stats are different. And again, you can see the shape changes quite a bit. Anyway, the point is, these all behave based on the configurable variables that I showed you earlier. The entire level follows those parameters, the config map, the exposed variables that make this a data-driven experience. And I'm going to show you now why that is different in Eufloria 2 compared to Eufloria, and how it allows us to do quite amazing things with this sequel. So I'm going to go back to the editor and show you exactly what I mean, and then show you some examples in-game. Let's mess with things. So remember the general config of the game, all these variables that we can play with, but at best what used to be the case was that they would only apply to one level. Now the very cool thing is that is no longer the case with Eufloria 2. Like right now, if I were to choose this asteroid, it has its own config map, its own inherited set of variables that I can play with. And if I open it, you can see that everything is still subject to my ability to edit various bits of data and variables and numbers. And it will only apply in a logical sense to what's on that asteroid. So if I were to change the speed of missiles, then that asteroid will get unique missiles, which is really actually quite nice, because it's more powerful than you might think. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'll leave this one alone actually, and I'm going to go to a neighbor asteroid. I've prepped it a little bit already to save time, but see, let me select it. I will look in its configuration data. I'm going to filter on structures, which is everything to do with trees. It's a structure. And let's have some fun. Now, these have a certain speed of growing and a number of growth stages. The moment the default is 4, all the trees after growing 4 times are basically fully grown. And for the first time in Eufloria's dev history, you can just change that. So, for example, if I were to say 7, it would get much bigger. There is also the ability to change how thick they are, all kinds of other stuff related, the min and max length at each growth stage. Plenty I can do here. Let's see, what else can we play with? The actual speed of growing, well, this is going to take a while, isn't it? So how about we just take this value, copy it. Yeah, oh, hang on. No. Yep. Except that's weird. That's not a number. The first one is extra fast. Anyway, this is going to grow quite quickly, and it will apply to all the regular trees. Let's look at the defensive trees. These can grow at this rate. See what the difference is. It has a different max level. 5. Let's give it 8. What else shall we do here? We could make it quite fat. That could be fun. Let's see what happens here. And maybe, what's this? This is how much it grows at each stage. So it kind of slows down. Let's do that like this. It's probably going to be a fat, nubby little thing. Who knows? I've not done this before, but it's very easy to just change these numbers and try and see what happens. Right. What else is there? Oh yeah, remember that funny little laser mine. I'm going to get back to that later. I've got a funny idea for that one, but let's see first if this experiment works. I'm going to save progress, press F5 to launch Eufloria and automatically load the level I'm working on, and then have a look. Outgrowth. I want to send a scout. Where's my scout? There. Whoa! Whoa, look at that. That's growing quite insanely. And it's got some fierce laser mines as well. Ooh, and this is normally not allowed to happen. It's interesting. So one of the reasons why I love this data-driven element and the extra powerful editor is that you can test things that normally would be quite slow to test, and then you probably wouldn't do it. There's too much friction. So in this case, normally a neighbor's asteroid's inhabitants will not interact. Oh, it's pretty. Will not interact with your own asteroid. It's too far away. But these, because the tree is so big, the actual orbit distance is massive. And if you look at this and you would draw an orbit around based on the tops of the trees, which is apparently where these laser mines orbit, it goes through my own asteroid. That brings them in range, and that is that's a new thing, and it's something that we can play with. Let me speed it up a bit. Let's see how this goes. Oh, my poor seedlings. It's also, oh, let's go through my asteroid. Why not? They're pretty powerful. That's another thing I've been playing with, is make laser mines more useful. But on this gigantic tree, they're very useful. Oh, in the meantime, these are pretty chunky. I wonder what happens if I send my seedlings there. Let's give it a go. Hop. Oh, let's slow down. Oh, look, they disperse. Because the distance is so much bigger, the distance they have to travel, because I think they need to attack the trees at the leaf level. So the forces get split up quite drastically, which again is something that normally wouldn't happen. At the same time, the defensive missile pods that come from these defensive trees have to travel much further to reach their target. So there's pros and cons here. Same with these mines. When they are out of range, they're not going to be that useful in defense. So we suddenly have all these unexpected, I would say emergent behaviors or consequences just to making a quick and dirty editor test come alive. I'm going to do this one more time. I'll use debug to give myself a nice army here. Dun dun dun. Look at you. Look at them fly. Right, let's look again at what happens. Oh, this gets a bit chuggy. It's pretty though. A bit ant nesty. Oh. So yeah. They engage the laser mine first. That's interesting. Right, they managed to take down the tree, and they will get into the root system and start tapping the asteroid core health. That's how you conquer an asteroid, getting it to 0. And then suddenly, it is mine. Mega tree world is mine. Oh, yes. Okay. I guess that's the win condition. I forgot I put that in. Right, so that's how that plays out. And I'm going to take that into the editor again for some more fun. Some things we've learned and some things that are quite interesting to play with. Let's push it a bit further. I thought the speed at which those trees were growing was a bit silly for the really large one. So I want to change that. But one thing that I noticed was also that if I were to take the length of that really giant tree, it would grow way past my asteroid. And one thing that could be fun to do is if I change it to more like, I don't know, let's try this here and try and engineer it so that the tree just reaches you. That means you have a certain window of time in which you can shore up defenses or get your units to safety or something like that. And then basically you have a timed level development, just again emerging from just changing some numbers. So I'm going to do that. Let's have a look. We're opening the config map again. Here we go. This is a little bit, I think this is not too bad, but it was the other tree, wasn't it? That was just too fast. So I'm going to take new, and I'm going to go over here. We might speed this up in editing, right? This is a bit boring. There was something else I wanted to do, and I still don't know what this is. I must do this later. What is that? I think it applies to this asteroid, but I don't see the comment on it. This is odd. On maybe the asteroid belt? Nope. It's going to drive me insane, this, but I'm going to ignore it for now. So we changed the color a bit. I thought it was a little bit, I don't know, boring. How about something a bit more like this? Let's see where that ends. Let's try this. Okay, right. Save, run. Here we go. Hop, hop, hop. Oh, it's quite a different feeling. Can I actually reach it? Oof, can I? Otherwise it's going to be quite a short test. No, I can't reach it. How annoying. Okay. What about this one? Nope. Here we go. I just placed it a little bit too far. There. I mean, I could do it like in a different way as well, right? This particular asteroid has a sending distance that is based on the stats, but the stats are, what's the word, randomized. So the actual range is going to change every time I test. So maybe I'll do it a little bit different. I'll make it a literal send distance. Well, what is this? 500? No, that's pathetic. 5,000. There we go. So at least my test will be okay. I can definitely reach that asteroid. So yeah. Right, save this. Run it. Warts and all. Reminder that all these graphics are to be changed, overhauled. Well, not all of them, but there is a graphical overhaul planned. So everything you're saying here is still early days. Right, now let's check it out. Let's send our little scout. Look at them go. What do they find? Whoa. They find these. It's a slightly more appropriate growing speed, I think. So we have some time before that range becomes big enough to actually interfere with our life forms, our seedlings. I do like watching them grow, I have to say. Not sure about this level color though. And what is this? This is an earlier experiment, I think, that I forgot about. A little blob. I'm going to do a video about that after I finish this video, because this has to do with creating your own entities in Eufloria 2, which is pretty nuts. Anyway, so hello. Let's have a look. If we speed up time, let's see if this distance is reasonable. Oh, that's getting quite close. I mean, I can also just speed up time in debug in quite amazingly effective ways. So the options, way. Are you still growing? No. So this is slightly too far away. Okay. I guess there's one more edit I'm going to do to see the final result. But you can see what I explained earlier. This becomes a timed release danger to the owner of this asteroid, which I just get that for free just by testing some numbers and pushing them to an extreme. So let's give it one more go. I'm going to stop this test, go to the editor one more time. There's another thing I should show you. But first, we had that slight distance issue. Now I can put it closer to the asteroid, or I can just go back to the config and go to structures and just make them grow more. Right, so min max, let's make this 30. That's how long they are at the start of it. And while they're growing, let's give them quite a bit more. That's for the defensive tree. And for the regular Dyson tree, we will do something similar. I don't think I need much. Let's do that. And we have a min and max starting length of this 15 to 60. Okay, that's quite variable. Let's make it 25. I think that's enough. Here we go. That should take us there. I really didn't like that color. Let's go for something more dramatic. How about more on this side? How dark do we want this? Let's give this a go. Oh, actually, there was one more thing I wanted to show you. We had that funny little laser mine, didn't we? With those tiny amounts of spikes. Now here's the thing I can do. I showed you that I could edit an individual asteroid, but what if I would go all the way to the tree level? And let's see, it has a flower, and that means mine in this case. And let's play with it. It has its own configuration now. Let's go with mines. Mines, here we go. Laser count, min max 2 to 7. How about we give it 7? It's just going to get 7. And how about we make it smaller? So it's fierce, but small. And there's a scale here. Min scale, max scale, yeah, we've done that. Ooh, I think that would do the trick. Just for fun. The point is, and like I said, I'm going to do a whole video about playing with mines, that I can create individualized entities all the way up to the individual tree level, which is pretty nuts. Let's try this. This is the new level color. Still not in love with it, I have to say. Right, let's see. Send a scout. Send a raven. You can see my stats are different again, because it's randomized for this level. This is growing nicely. I can slow this down a lot so that it would take like 10 minutes, which means I would be able to give the player some kind of mission that allows them to take on this crazy asteroid within a time frame of, I don't know, 10 minutes, something like that. That seems more reasonable. Here's my cute little tiny laser mine, now with 7 stars, or 7 laser emitters. Look at this. Oof. It's quite pretty. It's going to mess with other asteroids as well, which I hadn't even considered yet. So who's... oh, no. It does mean... look, it's drawing my arrow. I'm trying to draw it to this asteroid, but I think this means like the selection circle is snapping to it now. So that is a bad outcome. I'd have to figure out how to fix that. Like, I can't send anything to this asteroid, which is a shame. What I can do is just cheat. And here we go. Use my developer powers to show what else is going on. Either way, let's send some units there. they have so far to travel. And look at how far these defensive pods have to go before they arrive at the invaders. But yeah, this works really well, I think. This is a very different dynamic from regular Eufloria. Oh, look at my tiny little warrior. Still alive. Not for much longer, I think. So this works. It's nice. I think we should go out with a bang. Let's add a bunch of seedlings to this fight. I know it's cheating, but I'll do it anyway. Here we go. And watch the pretties fly. I'm feeling a bit guilty, actually. It's not entirely fair. So yeah, so there you have it. Changing tree variables in a data-driven environment, leading to experimental scenarios that I can quickly test, teaching me that there's actually quite a bit of value in doing this insofar that it changes gameplay elements substantially. And I'll be building most likely a whole level around this concept with a giant enemy tree that is slowly growing within your neighborhood to cause problems. I do need to change this. We do have a nice new logo now. I better give it to the programmers. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. And if you like the look of it, please go to the Steam page and wishlist Eufloria 2. Or not. See you soon. Bye bye.